Hey, this is Kieran, Coach's Corner Chats, and on the episode for today is Jamie Bartlett. Jamie, where are you at and what are you up to?
I live in Kenton, Ohio. And Kenton, Ohio is northwest Ohio and probably about a half an hour south of Findlay. So I'm right off of 75 a little bit there, kind of right near Ohio Northern. We're about 15 minutes from Ada, Ohio. And you know what? I'm in the off season right now, so I'm just looking for things to do. I told my guys when we lost that last game in the district semifinals, life's going to suck now. Soccer's gone, and now I actually have to figure out what I'm going to do with my time. And so when I saw you looking for a guest, I said, yep, I'm jumping all over that.
That's awesome. And I appreciate you hopping on. How long have you been at Kenton?
I moved to Kenton in 1998. And I actually came from the Cleveland area. I grew up in the Cleveland area, graduated from college, and then there was a job opening here, and was been living here ever since. It's become a great home for my wife and I and two kids.
Have you been the coach of the soccer team for that long period of time?
You know, I was the JV coach from 1998 to 2000, and then I've been the head coach since. So I'm kind of a dinosaur now in coaching years.
What has been some of the, I guess, when you first started versus now, what are some things that you look back at those? Because, I just finished my second year. What are some things when you look back at your first couple that you're like, oh, that was maybe I've learned from, or what things do you keep doing? What things maybe have you
Oh
changed?
yeah, you know, a lot has changed. When I moved here, football was at its highest point in Kenton. We had the Coach Mock and we had the Air Mock boys running the show, and we were winning some state titles. And coaching while your football team is very successful was a very difficult time here in Kenton, Ohio. And so it took quite a while to get our footing set on the ground here. Kenton was not a soccer town. Not a lot of feeder programs when I moved here. We had kids that were just really good kids. They just wanted to play, but they just hadn't played a lot of soccer. And so over the course of time, we've thankfully put Kenton on the map when it comes to soccer. We've been able to make some runs to district, to regional. We won a Western Buckeye League crown, but it was a lot of hard work where we kind of went down when my son was really young and coached his group from the age of about 6 on up until they got in high school. And we had about 15 of them. And boy, did we reap the rewards of that just by getting our hands dirty a little bit there. And
So,
so
the kind of that focus of dealing with the youth and building it up from there was a humongous kind of instigator for being positive and successful.
it really was. We don't have a lot of kids that go play club here in Kenton. And a lot of them will just kind of play in-house, or they'll travel with just the rec league around here. And we started to encourage kids to play a little bit more clubs, so we got a few kids doing it there. We've seen our training go from maybe in the season when I first moved here to year round pretty much now with lifting. And we have a brand new field house facility that's 50 by 50 that we're allowed to play in basically all winter long. And so we're playing and lifting and doing things from December on until July, just to kind of get ready for the season.
So you're almost creating opportunities for the boys to play as much as possible, since maybe right now a lot of them don't have those opportunities out of your setting.
Correct. Yeah, we try to give them as much opportunities as we can. We go to futsal tournaments in the winter. We went down to Mason last winter, had a great tournament down there where I think Steve McCollum runs the facility down there. Mason had a fun tournament there. A lot of colleges up here run futsal tournaments: Defiance College, Bluffton University, Ohio Northern. And so we get involved with those. And then in the summer, man, between camps and tournaments and 7-on-7s, we try to get to. We just try to play a lot of soccer, but also focus on the lifting aspect as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, what league is it again that you guys play in?
We're in the Western Buckeye League with like your Lima Shawnee, Ottawa Glandorf, Elida, Salina, St. Mary's. Lima Shawnee just won again last night, and they were in the regional final for the third year straight. And so they'll be playing Lexington on Saturday. Last year they made it to the Final Four and fell to eventual state champs Warren Holland. 3-0, which that was a pretty solid Warren Holland team last year.
I was going to say, at that point, when you start putting up scores like that, that's pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, so we're in a very competitive league. It's fun, but boy, you have to compete night in, night out if you want success in this league.
And you talked about coaching your son from that younger age and up.
Mhm.
What was the experience of coaching him at the high school level? What was that dynamic like?
Oh, it was so much fun. That freshman year ended, and I'm like, man, I got 3 more years of this. And I'm through every single minute of it, and you try not to blink. And apparently, I did. And the next thing I knew, we were bowing out to Bay in the regional final his senior year, and his career was over, as well as the 15 other kids that were basically like my kids, because they stay at my house all the time. We're a small community of about 8,000, and so I teach all these kids in middle school. I coach them at the youth soccer camps growing up, and then I've coached them in high school. So we know each other pretty well. And so that was a rough year to say goodbye to like 15 of my sons when that year ended.
What got you into coaching soccer in the first place? Was it something that did you play as when you were younger?
I did. I grew up on the east side of Cleveland in a town called Madison High School, right near Geneva on the lake. And I was fortunate enough to go to Ashland University and play a couple years at college. And then I knew once I left college that I was going to be coaching somewhere. It's just, where can I find my job? I was fortunate in college that we hired Steve Parker, who was the University of Akron's coach back in 1986, and he was like the Division I Coach of the Year. And he came to Ashland for 1 year. And boy, talk about just learning a lot from a legend there. And I feel like he taught me so much in the 1 year that he came to Ashland and coached us, that a lot of things he taught. Okay, yeah, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to make sure I do this and that. And it's just been a passion of mine. I grew up playing it. My brothers and sisters played it. We got our kids involved in it. And it's just something that all my friends did when I was in high school. All my friends in college did the same thing. And it was just something I knew was going to be a big part of my life.
What the other thing that I love about it is, like you said a dinosaur, but what keeps that like fire and that passion going? Because that is one of the things you don't see a whole lot of coaches that have kind of have that longer tenure. So what has been something that's kind of kept you at Kenton and continue to just get after? Because even just talking to you, I can just tell that there's this fire about Kenton soccer and continuing to keep like creating almost a year round. Like we'll take the 28 days off, what that they tell us, and then we're getting right
Mm-hmm.
back to it.
You got it. That's what we're doing there. It's just been something that, it's just part of my routine, my daily life here. I love the kids here in Kenton. We get excited at the middle school. We talk soccer. We try and get them going, get them ready. We get them up to the high school. And is there going to come a point where I'm probably going to be like, yeah, I kind of need some time off. I kind of just need to like relax and do it. I'm not there yet. I guess that's when I'll really feel like a dinosaur, is when I do hit that spot right now. I go to my league meetings and I look around the room and I'm like, I'm the oldest, tenured guy here. It didn't used to be that way. And
Yeah.
how did this happen? I'm supposed to be the young pup in the room. And then now you guys are looking at me for advice, and man, my career just keeps adding up in years, and it's just fun. And when it stops being fun, it's probably when I'm going to have to probably say, okay, it's time to turn to someone else. I have a wonderful assistant. He was one of my players, and he graduated back in 2008, and he probably almost thinks, eats, and sleeps more soccer than me. And it's great because he's a guy that he'll say something to me, and I'll be like, no, that's not what we're doing, and then we'll get into a little bit of an argument, and then we'll work it out, and we'll go from there. So he's kind of great to have. He's got the rapport with kids, and I think he keeps things fresh for me as well. Really helps.
I think the I like the idea of having an assistant who isn't a yes man, who
Mm-hmm.
I think the cool thing for you to be able to give him the opportunity, like, here, give me some thoughts on what you think we need to do or work on, and then we'll work through it, and we may disagree or we may go with it. And bodes well for him if he moves on to like being a head coach somewhere else.
Oh, exactly. And at some point, that's ideally, I think he would love to be involved with soccer 24/7. He loves coaching here in town. He's very proud of his alumni here, and he does a great job, and the kids love him. And, I'm in my mid 40s, and here he is in his low 30s. So he sometimes keeps that connection there too. If I'm like, oh yeah, he's right, man, that is probably, right there. So we think a lot, we bounce ideas off of each other, and we go to the National Coaches Convention. We'll go out to Kansas City here in January.
Nice.
And we both go, and we just, we hit as many sessions as we can. We'll compare some notes. We'll try to pick people's brains while we're there, because just like with teaching, you're never done learning. And definitely in soccer, when you think you know it all, that's when you don't.
Um, you always hear people say that kids are different nowadays than they were. Do you see kids the way you coach them and what have you. But are there things that they're different than what they were when you started back in the early 2000s to now, like 20 years later?
Yeah, and it, but like everything, every program's probably facing this. They've got phones, they've got video games, they've got esports. There are just so many things that grab kids' attention, and they can just be distracted for so long with those things. It's like my assistant and I, our big thing is we just try to make everything fun, because if it's fun, they're going to want to be there. If it's not fun, then they're going to want the distractions in their life. So we just try to make things competitive, up tempo, as fun as we can. Because like you said, we're competing with quite a few things there. Our kids today may be a little bit softer than when we were kids. I'm sure, things have changed over the course of time there. I heard all my elders say, "Oh man, you guys have it easy nowadays." And then, now we're saying, "Oh, hey kids, you guys kind of have it easy nowadays." And so every generation, I think, thinks they had it harder than the generation before. There's just so many more things vying for kids' attention than when we were kids, or me.
Yeah, for sure. I always talk about, man, if I had social, I'd get in so much trouble
Might
with,
have been in trouble, yeah.
yeah, people see or heard what I was saying or doing uh, as a youngster. Uh, the other thing that popped up, and I love you were talking about the Akron coach that made an impact on you. What about him was something that just kind of was a magnet for you, and something that kind of, like, I can tell he poured a lot of positive things into you.
It was his calm demeanor. He would stand on the sideline with like a straw hat. He'd get a blade of grass, put it between his teeth, and then if he wanted, he'd call you over and he'd just put his arm around you and he would just say, "Hey, this is what I want you to do." And he just tell you, and he wasn't yelling at you, he wasn't screaming at you, And then just some of the ideas he had that up to that point, I had some really good high school coaches, but when he came, it was like, wow, I feel really, like my eyes have been open a little bit, just to some things that maybe I hadn't been open to, drills that he may have shown us there, just the way he treated us and the way he kind of talked to us, and just the way he composed himself and held himself, just a very knowledgeable individual, and the game just seemed to come very easy to him.
The cool thing is how you didn't there wasn't any like crazy energetic screaming or anything. He was just kind of like always. I think it's cool when coaches take that moment to kind of have those individual conversations with guys, because you can just kind of get a better feel for them and those relationships. Is that something, some of the things that you've taken and use within your coaching as well?
Oh yeah, I think my assistant and I are very relational with the players. I think that's the biggest thing we try to get into our players is just develop the relationships. It's kind of like teaching too. Kids are going to want to be in your class, learn a little bit more, with the relationships you have with them, and we've carried that into soccer. We're just open and honest with the guys, and we're always telling them, "Listen, man, if you guys want to know where you're at, our door's always open, and we're not going to lie to you. Hey, if you're the 18th guy, if you want to move up the chain, be a little bit higher, these are the things you need to work on to move up the chain and see the field a little bit more." So we're just open and honest with the guys. We keep the relationships. Do we get excited sometimes? Sure, we're coaches. That's just going to happen at times there. But I think we do a really good job of being level headed too, and just trying to make sure the kids know we're there for you. Okay, we're going to help you. We're going to compete. We're going to do the best that we can, and it just makes it a nice two-way street there.
Do you think it's an advantage being a middle school teacher versus maybe like a high school, because you get to kind of start building and putting in their heads like, hey, high school soccer boys, high school soccer, and they get a couple of years of seeing you in the building and stuff like that?
I think it does help. What hurts me is they go to the high school and there's no soccer over there. It's all football coaches. So I'm at the younger age. I'm trying to impact them there. But I honestly do think it does help, because the kids will come and I might be watching game film during a planning period, and they'll say, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, look at this, man. Look at the game from last night." And they'll sit down, they'll watch the game a little bit with me there, and we'll have some conversations. We got a nice middle school league here that's non-OSHA certified. It's just like a club middle school, and they play in Northwest Ohio. So, and then they're playing indoor right now. So we try to give them opportunities to just play. And hey, results don't really matter. Just go play, go have fun, learn the game, want to keep coming back. And so, that's being at that middle school level where they are young and impactful. That sometimes can help to an advantage.
How long have you had the middle school soccer program? Like how's it set up? And like for instance, mine, we do not have anything like that. And I would love to, but I just don't know how to go about. I mean, how's the kind of setup and how long have you guys been doing that?
We're This is probably about year 6 that we've done it. And I had kind of taken some concerns to our Western Buckeye League coaches. And I said, listen, guys, I have to have something at my middle school because the first thing the sixth graders do when they come to middle school is they want to play a sport. Well, what sports in the fall? You've got football and you've got cross country. I said, I have to have something to offer these kids so
Mhm.
I don't lose all these kids right away to football. And so I talked with the league, and we had one of our coaches' wives that was in the WCOSA, West Central Ohio Soccer Association. And she said, hey, I got some contacts over here. If we try to do this with all the Western Buckeye League teams and even surrounding schools that want to become involved in this, I can set up a software program that we can schedule the games, and, we can, and so we kind of got in this together. I think we have like 14 boys teams and 14 girls teams that each play like 10 games. Like I said, it's not OSHA certified. So let's say a kid wants to play club soccer in the fall at a middle school age, he can still come over and play in ours because there's nothing OSHA to
Yeah.
keep him away from doing that there. And so this was, like I said, this is year 6. Very smooth. It's kind of, I'm like co-commissioner. So if there are any issues that arise, they'll either call me or the main lady, and we'll just talk it through and say, okay, this is how we should handle this. But it's grown each year, and it's just been something nice to offer our boys and girls when they get to middle school. They want to be a part of a middle school sport. Now they can be a part of soccer.
The one thing I just heard and I love is it wasn't like, hey, let's just get Kenton kids playing. You reached out to all of the league, like, look, because I'm guessing there's probably a similar setup for most of the schools, kind of like some play some club ball, but majority
Exactly.
were trying to create opportunities. So I think it's big of you because, like, look, in the big scheme of things, we want kids playing as many kids playing the game of soccer. And the more that do well, kind of like you were talking about the one team right now that's doing really well with Lima Shawnee that's doing
Yep.
well in the tournament, like that look is good for your league. It's good for
Exactly.
your program, like to say, look, we're playing against a team that's now has a chance to go all the way to the state finals.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's really cool that you didn't just say, oh, let's create something for Kenton. Let's create something for the, WBL.
Oh yeah, and I knew, like I said, no one really had it, and ideally, people want to get the sport to where it's recognized by OSHA, but then you're going to need, like, you're going to have to pay your coaches at the middle school level. Then you're going to have to find certified referees that are doing high school games in the fall that are going to be available to do middle school games in the fall. So there's a lot of, like, I'm happy with just the way it is, and I pay my middle school coach some, hey, you're a big help to me. You're a big asset here. This doesn't feel like I'm doing anything for you, but thank you so much for helping us out here. It's what we can do here, and it's just been great to see, because now I got 18 to 20 kids that are at least playing in 7th and 8th grade.
Is who ends up being the coaches at the middle school level?
Typically it would be, let's say, a parent that was involved, that and a lot of times the parents or would be alumni that have come through the program that I know, and okay, I trust you, you guys can do a good job. I
Mm-hmm.
had some middle school teachers do it for the past 5 years, but one of them just took a job in Canal Winchester, and so I lost him. He was Chris Becker was his name, and he was a great asset for me there. And my other guy still teaches in Kenton, but he lives in Marysville now, so his all of our games are like in West Central Ohio, so the exact opposite of where he
Yeah,
lives.
a little bit of
So,
a drive.
yeah, so right now we're just trying to get some parents who know the game that can kind of take over. But I did have some nice stability for about 5 or 6 years there.
That's awesome, especially when there's other like another couple of teachers in the building that
Mhm.
are like you were just joking about with the high school when they go there, and then it's like, oh, great, you're just hearing football all the time in the hallway, um, and what have you. In terms of where you kind of see yourself going, do you see yourself just kind of like once you're done with Kenton, will you be done, or do you have, you talked about quote unquote commissioner of, would you want to be maybe move into a like a athletic director or a more administrative type thing, or
It's tough. The athletic directorship is an appealing position for me, but my daughter's a senior this year, so she's going to be leaving, and we're going to be empty nesters next year, which
oh,
is going to be just a different situation for my wife and I. Just we're just so used to having our kids run our lives, being here
mhm.
for us there, to where at some point I may want something to do along those lines where I'm just getting involved with the sports. I'm not 100% sure. I know when our kids graduate college and they move on to their own homes and lives, we'll probably want to follow them a little bit and kind of be near them a little bit. And so who knows, maybe grandpa will get to coach the kids that they have down the road at a young age there. So
That'd be awesome.
it's up in the air. Like I said, being an AD does have some appeal. I'm just not 100% sure if I want to devote that much time to it or not yet, because I've seen what our AD does, and they're very busy.
Oh yeah, for sure. That does your did your or does your daughter play as well?
She does. This was her last year in Kenton. She's a senior, so her season just ended a couple weeks ago. So it was really fun. I coached her growing up. I coached my son growing up. I wasn't able to coach her in high school. Obviously, I coached the boys, but I was at all of her games and gave her advice along the way. And so it was just a lot of fun seeing both of my kids come through the program and play. And they both did a great job.
What is the dynamic like? So for one, being on the sidelines with your son, so you're giving like direct information and dealing with the ups and downs of coaching. What was it like to be on the parent side, sitting in the stands watching your daughter? What was it? An easy transition, or did you find yourself sometimes like, I got to go walk, or I got to do something?
Yeah.
I'm going to become a distraction more than a.
It's a lot louder on that sideline. I can say that being in the parent section. It is definitely a little bit louder in terms of the fans. You can just sense the emotion coming from them. It was difficult at first because you're right. I'm used to pulling, my son aside or any one of my players aside and saying, okay, when you go out here this next time, this is what I want you to work on. Well, my daughter's playing. I'm on the fan side. And so even when she comes out of the game, I don't have that input. And even if I did, I'd want to be making sure whatever coach was telling you, I was reiterating what coach was telling you, not telling you something completely different. So yeah, it was interesting, coaching for a long time, to become a fan. Definitely, you're like, man, I kind of like being on the coach sideline a little bit better.
Does she have any desires to go to the next level with soccer, or?
She dabbles in everything. So she's just started basketball up. She's in our show choir. She and so she's done track. She's done a little bit of club soccer. So she's one that she likes to do it all. She cheerleaded this fall for the first time. So she did soccer and cheerleading. Her sophomore year, she did cross country and soccer during the same season. So she just kind of picked up everything, and she's very involved. And she likes everything. I mean, that's the good thing about her. She wants to be a part of things there. She did a great job at that next level. I think she might get involved like intramurally, where she'll want to go and have some fun with her friends. But I'm just not 100% sure. My son Landon, it was pretty easy. He was passionate about it, and I see right now he's with Ramon and Andreas down there at UC, on the club soccer team at UC. So soccer was his passion. It's what he wanted to do, and so it's fun because I had two kids that have just different passions, and it was neat to see them explore different options.
Yeah, because that was one of the things that kind of connected me with you was so we've got two kids that played at Middletown High School who are now on the club team at UC, and then seeing your kind of retweeting of how well they did this past weekend, in which now they're headed to regionals. What has that experience been for your son playing at because there's club soccer at college, like what's the level like, what's the experience like, what is that for someone who maybe is like, I want to play but I don't know if I want to put the time and effort into being like a full-time college soccer player? What is the benefits and what things has he enjoyed about the experience of doing club soccer at the college level?
It is definitely a less of a commitment. Just like if you were to go to college and play your sport, you're going to be there 5, 6, 7 days a week, and you're going to have practice at a set time, and you're going to have lifting at this time and game travel. For them, it's a couple days a week that they get together with their buddies and play. You're going to keep in shape on your own, because you're not going to have all the practices to kind of keep yourself in shape there. The competition is great. There are some really quality kids on that team. I think they have one young man who, when the team left 2 years ago, when they disbanded the program at UC, he's from Uganda. He stayed on the team. I know everyone else, I think, went a different direction and found a new school to play at. He kind of stayed. And the rest of the guys are guys that probably had some fantastic high school careers, that wanted to play. but there's no option at UC. And so therefore your club soccer is your only option there. You know, Landon as a freshman played, and I think he said there were 90 kids that came to the tryout that first year when he got there as his freshman year. I went and tried to travel to as many games as I could just to kind of support him and watch how things were going there. And last year, you know, it got wiped away due to COVID, so they didn't really have a season. And then this year, you know, it's just great to see how successful they are, because you know they had to win regionals to get the automatic bid to nationals. And so that's where I think they're going to Alabama on the 18th through the 20th of this month with I think 24 other teams that will also be down there. And there were some really good teams at the regional level that we watched. I thought Northwestern was a fantastic team, you know, and we beat them 1-0 in the semifinals there. And they had to work really hard. I mean, I think these kids could probably compete at a D3, D2 level with other college teams. There's only a couple days a week, so they're not getting that rigorous training daily that those kids are getting there. But there's some exciting players on that team, and even the other teams that are there. So club soccer is a really quality atmosphere to go watch some really good players. And I'm excited. I'm going to head down to nationals to catch the boys. And then, you know, I was talking to Ramon and Andreas's mom, they're going down. And so it was just kind of fun, just being a fan all over again with a bunch of parents that I hadn't really met yet, because I've been to a few of the games, but when we were there at regionals, we just hung out. We just had a great time.
I think it's so cool because I know Ramon and Andreas, like Ramon for sure, like is a crazy goal scoring machine when he was in high school. Andreas is just like a solid, just, you know, both of them could have gone and played wherever, but you know, sometimes you just say, I just want to be a college student, but there's still that passion to play. And I think it's so cool, but I don't know if people ever think about, you know, it's always like, oh, I got to go D1, D2, D3, but then you know, people kind of struggle with those decisions, but then there's always these other options. I don't think people understand, because I'm with you. I know, because their brother was my assistant coach my first year, and he said, man, these guys are really, really stinking good. Like he said, same as you, he said, we could take them and go play some of these college teams and we would hang no problem. Type of thing. So I think it's so cool for them, some of those guys that can keep that drive going and such. And the fact that you're wearing like the Cincinnati, I saw their uniforms are sick, like look so nice.
They got the uniforms from the team when they left. The university gave them the varsity uniforms, and those uniforms are, you're right, they're sick, man. They're really nice.
I just saw them and I was like, man, that is some nice looking gear for. Now, is there a cost that goes into something like that to help keep that kind of thing rolling?
Yeah, I think it was for every player that played this year. I think the fee was like $250, and that was to like rent a facility for the bands and just things along those lines. There, I'm still trying to figure out what the fee will be for nationals. You know, that keeps asking my son, "Hey, do you got a price on that yet?" So I know what we're looking at. And so we don't know yet. So yeah, each kid does that there, and I know this year they had 130 kids try out for club soccer this year. It was an enormous number there. So it's nice to see that it's growing, that people want to do it. And like I said, they've got some pretty solid players up there. And you're like, Ramon and Andreas were so much fun to watch play.
Yeah, and I know for sure, just if they're there, and I know, you know, just sounds like your son plays at a pretty high level as well. That's just awesome, just to continue to surround yourself with that. It's almost kind of like what you've been building at Kenton. Like, we're just creating opportunities to play. Like, look, son, go to UC, crush it in your classes and whatever. But look, if you want to go play, what an opportunity. UC's got one set up for you. Let's keep doing it.
Oh yeah. And I was thrilled because I got another guy that graduated with Landon, who's up at Syracuse, and his team qualified for nationals. And so we're hoping that maybe when we go down there that they might get to meet on the field. That'd be a lot of fun. Two dudes that just grew up together playing, best of friends, get to play each other down there.
And that's wild too, because Kenton, you said it's a town of 800.
We're about 7,000. Sorry,
7,000. My bad.
So, but still, yeah, very rare to have two guys make it down there. So we're pretty excited. We've been talking to his mom and dad about it, and we're all flying down at similar times and just go enjoy that weekend.
That is so cool. That's just awesome. I think it's just, yeah. And then I love the fact that you have the kind of the flexibility to be able to go and see, because I know they played this past week in Indiana or past weekend. So that's just, you know, just across the border.
That
kind
was
of thing. I
really
know
nice.
it's probably a couple
Great
hours
workshop.
drive, but
Yep, about 3 hours.
um,
And I was very unprepared. I kind of just said, I'll come down and watch you on Saturday. And then they beat Ohio State and they beat Grand Valley State. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to stay all night, but I don't have any clothes. I don't have any toiletries. So I'm going to go. I had to go shopping, and they made it worth my while by making that, coming through on Sunday and winning both those games to get the automatic bid there. So, but it was nice that they were only 3 hours away.
well, the other thing too is because when they said, yeah, we're playing in Indiana, I was like, oh, probably some podunk place. And they're playing there at Grand Park. I'm like, they're like, I think the Big Ten tournament or some stuff was going on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So just the quality, like I expect the one down in Alabama is going to be an amazing facility as well.
I assume we'll be outside. I mean, we were inside up there at Grand Park in their 3 turf fields they had there, which was really nice this past weekend, being inside. I assume down in Alabama, right on the beach, because they're right on Gulf Coast there, be warm enough that maybe they're going to be a nice complex down there. But I think be my first time in Alabama. So I'm kind of looking forward to it, just kind of seeing some great soccer while I'm there and just
Yeah.
enjoying a little bit of relaxation.
Kind of talking about college and all that type of stuff. You mentioned earlier being really almost in a triangle of like Defiance and Ohio Northern and what have you up in that in Bluffton, et cetera. But how has that been helpful for you having those types of programs around Kenton High School?
We like to take the guys and venture out to go catch college games. We've got a wonderful rapport with Ohio Wesleyan University. I've taken my team up there to Jay Martin and his camp like 6 of the last 7 years. And so every year we try and take the guys and go to Ohio Wesleyan and support his program and watch a game. And he takes the time to come out and talk to the kids after the game and just say hi to everybody. And so it's one of those relationships things again. We have the Bluffton coach. He's a new one this year, but he's doing a fantastic job there. So they just lost in the semifinals there.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone and watched some of his games. Defiance has Corey Bucher up there at Defiance. We've gone up to his indoor things he's done for us for futsal tournaments, and he coached us at 1 year at Ohio Wesleyan. He was in charge of our team, so we've kept in touch. Alan Yost from Capital, coached my team 1 year. We keep in touch all the time, and we talk about the kids and just the game of soccer itself. But you're right, Ohio Northern's right down the road, so we try to use them as resources, and we just try to encourage our kids. Hey, there are places you can go play if you want to go around here, and if not, hey, there are places that you can go elsewhere. But it is great to just have a lot of resources within an hour and a half of us.
The one thing I love about it sounds like you keep bringing up relationships, and the other thing is the idea of actually going and creating those relationships. Like you have to experience things, and I think you do a great job of setting up programs within your program, but you're willing to go out and say, look, let's go to Ohio West, and do stuff with them, or let's go to Defiance with Corey and let's do some stuff with them. Like they get to be immersed, they get to experience. I think that's one of the big things is like this college thing sounds really, really kind of daunting. But then when you go and you find like, oh, he coaches just like Coach Bartlett does, or, oh, we do a lot of drills kind of like this too, or just to see the whole kind of like, I think it's really, really cool for them to be a part of.
Oh, it is. And we also like the fact that, sometimes our voice just gets old on the kids and they just hear it over. And it's always great to even hear college coaches come in and say similar things, but it's coming from a college coach. So, oh man, that sounds like a great idea. Well, yeah, we've been saying that for years. It's a different voice. So it's great to have them come in and it's also reaffirming to us as coaches, hey, we are on the right. We are doing those things. We do talk about that. We do practice those things there. And then they are doing it at the college level. So works kind of both ways there.
I agree with you can only say things so many times, and they're like, dude, if I hear it one more time, coach. But then it is kind of like, oh, wait a minute, did he just say what I think he said? Yeah, we've been bringing that up as well. And I think the cool thing too is when I've tried to keep telling my boys, like the only difference as you get older is this, the time and the space becomes a lot smaller, but it's still soccer. It's still the same. So it's still, the mistakes you make at the, youth grade levels versus high school all the way up are the same ones that are going to get you in trouble, or the things you're good at. You just have to do it cleaner, quicker, and what have you. In terms of, well, let me ask this because I was wondering, what do you teach?
I taught math for about 15 or 16 years, and then I needed a new day. And we were part of a grant from the Asia Society, and the Asia Society was a global initiative, and we opened two new classes at my building, and one was called Global Studies. And I have been a global studies teacher now for about 7 years. And basically, we look at the world today. We don't look at the past, and we look at problems that are going on around the world, and we attempt to come up with solutions to the problems. So we
Hmm.
can look at, human trafficking. Might be an issue that kind of comes up. It's just a topic we can address in certain countries there, and we might talk about it, and we might, look, okay, what can we do to address these problems here? And it's just been a fun class. It's just been I needed a new day after teaching math for so long. I got my new day, and I'm a semester class for seventh grade half the year, and I'm a semester class for eighth grade the other half of the year. So just it's been a lot of fun.
It's had to have been really wild with like the pandemic coming through and then like elections and, vaccines and all these types of things that I don't think we do enough with these kids to talk about like things that are affecting them or like across the world. I think it
Mhm.
was easy it was like eye opening when you started seeing that there's other people that had to wear masks and had to deal with all this, the quarantine. Like you hear it, but you're like, I don't really feel like anybody else is dealing with it until you actually start kind of looking around and noticing, like, oh, the kids in Australia are going through similar things that we are, and they get like a different feel for things.
Oh yeah, that was really helpful there. So, we did about 4 years ago. We did some. I don't know if you're familiar with Haiti and an organization there known as the Be Like Brit Orphanage. Um, I have a pastor here in town who is big on their board and helping them out. And we raised about $10,000 in 1 year time to help pay for internet access to the orphanage in Haiti. And our kids got to be like in charge of, decisions and how we did some things there. So it's really kind of a cool thing for the kids to get to be like the change in action, as they were kind of doing it and fundraising and doing some things there. So that was a pretty neat thing we were able to be a part of.
What are some of the things? So, big relationship type coach. What are some of the things that you do to kind of create that within the culture? Like, what kind of team building things do you all do? What kind of focuses on character, et cetera, do you guys kind of implement?
Well, we open up our house a lot to events here. They take the USA, and I'm trying to think of the team they just beat in the last game. Who did we just beat in the qualifying round?
Is
In
it
the last
Costa Rica?
Costa Rica. You know what? We projected the game on the outside of my house. We had a fire, and we had the guys come out, and we, roasted food, and we watched the game together. We'll take advantage of night, and we'll just project it up on my house, and we'll invite the guys out. And we'll have a blast, kind of doing that. This past summer, we went paintballing one day. We, we try to go to a crew game throughout the year and support the crew. We just try to do a lot of things that are non-soccer based, but they're just team involved. We were going to go tubing this past year, but we weren't able to get up to Bellefontaine to go tubing like we've done in years past. So we just try to have fun events where they just get together and there's just some bonding opportunities that straight up fun, just hanging out and just camaraderie.
Just the idea of just being a kid, like just have some fun. There's no structure or anything to it. Just enjoy yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, and what have you. I think that's so cool. The other thing is, and I love it, is that you brought up like it was awesome to coach my son, but the other 15 or the other 14 that made up the 15 were my sons as well. So his family,
Oh,
it
that's a
sounds super important to you, not just like your immediate, like I can tell that you're super excited to see your son and daughter. You talked about being a grandpa and all that stuff. Like you can just tell you're excited about that. Has that always been something, like even as a youngster, was family always something that was just kind of instilled and was like that big piece of your equation?
It was. Both my parents had like eight brothers and sisters, and they were super tight. Like, we spent a lot of time with my dad's family constantly, Christmas parties and just summer reunions and just hanging out on the weekends. And so it kind of got instilled to me at a young age, that family's important. And then when I moved to Kenton, and then I met my wife here, she also teaches. And then, we started to raise our family. And then, it's amazing how they always said, your sports will choose your parents' friends. Your kids' activities will determine who you hang out with. Well, it did. It determined who our friends were there. And so if you talk to any one of my players currently, I think the biggest thing they'll tell you is that, KSA, that's our acronym there for Kenton Soccer Association. KSA is one big family, and that's something we're extremely proud of. Something we really promote the heck out of there. And we just try and let the guys know, you might be graduating right now, but all you're doing is you're entering the next phase, which is the alumni phase. And now when you guys need something, guys, we're just a phone call away. I had a guy who graduated in 2004. So you're thinking 17 years ago. I got to go down to his wedding here in Cincinnati in June with all of his ex-teammates there. And I got to celebrate one of the happiest days of his life. And it was so awesome to he reached out to me, asked me if I'd come to the wedding, and I loved it, man. And here he'd been out 17 years. He lived in New York City for about 15 of them. We just kind of kept in touch through texting and some of his friends there. And to get that invite, it meant the world to me. And it shows family in action right there.
The wild thing, and I always get to hear these little stories from coaches, but it amazes the impact that being a coach can have on these young men, because it goes on. Like even the fact that the acting coach that you brought up from 20 plus years ago, still like you can just, I remember him putting his arm around me and talking to me about this and all that kind of stuff. And for that young man who now is an adult and is now getting married and is going to build his family, what has the impact? So we always talk about the impact coaches make. What has the impact been on you personally, being a coach for 20 years of a program that you've pretty much built, by hand?
It's a lot. It's kind of hard to put into words there. Like I said, you're around those kids so much, and then when you offer them opportunities, almost year round, it just feels like they're extensions of my family. And I know their parents really well. We go to sporting events together. We might run into each other at the grocery store. We might go to the same church, and so you just inherit a lot of family members just from just a soccer team, just for how many siblings that they have. And I'm rambling there, and I kind of just lost my train of thought. Like he asked me a question there, and I'm kind of, going down this path, and I kind of lost my train of thought there.
Yeah, just more of just the, you always hear about what the impact players get, but I think sometimes I've realized from my experience, like, holy smokes, I feel like I'm a better person because these kids, you just see the impact you can make, and then the how important it is for how I carry myself and the decisions I make. And that the arm around a kid, like how big that is for some of these kids that don't get that opportunity to have that kind of closeness and what have you. But this has been so awesome.
I've enjoyed this, man. When I saw you asking for a guest, I'm like, I'm gonna reach out, man. I'm gonna jump on that.
Yeah, because this has been so cool. It's been really good for me. Like, again, the conversations are always awesome, and then when I share it out, just for people to hear, it would be really cool for the people in your coaches in your league or coaches in the area to check out. I know the guys from Defiance and all that kind of stuff will hop on and check it out and what have you. If people want to connect with you, or hey, I want to follow up on how Kenton's doing and what they're up to, what are some good ways to connect with you and stay up to date on what's going on with KSA?
We have Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Twitter is just it's KT Men's Soccer, and I think Facebook is just Kenton Men's Soccer. And I think the Instagram is KT Men's Soccer. I have a Twitter handle. It's just Galaxy Coach. I used to be the name of my son's team when they were growing up, and I just never changed it. It just kind of stayed the name that I've had there. So, and I, as you said, I tweet a lot. I'm tweeting soccer stuff or things that are kind of going on there. And, we recognize kids' birthdays on our social media, so we try to promote some things. Last year during the pandemic, we we did throwback pictures of kids from when they were like
Wow.
6 or 7 years old. Every day we highlighted different kid. Parents sent us pictures, and we were able to kind of like put a then versus now picture. And so we just try to get our name out there as much as we can, and just promote our program and our players in a positive manner. So, but like I said, we always social media. We have all three facets there that they can follow us on.
That's awesome. And I will share all of this information with in the show notes and what have you, but I will shut this thing down. This is Kieran Coach's Corner Chats, and I'm out. Peace.
Peace.